Hello, 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 hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Inner Storyteller. Welcome back to your real life. It is indeed Soul Expression, your humblest of hosts, and we are back with another installment of Why People Distrust the Medical Authorities with one Sarah Cross. Uh, guys, please be aware. Please be cognizant of the fact that if you are here at the Inner Storyteller YouTube channel or the ufuluchild YouTube channel, you are in for real conversations, good people. You're in for real conversations about natural law, religion, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the great, money, anarchy, culture, and how mankind is manipulated from the shadows by people who do not have our best interests at heart. Perhaps because they are completely evil. But who knows? But we are not bashing faith systems here. Okay, we are not calling people stupid for having or following or ritualizing a religion of their choice. We are simply examining psychological affects and effects of the stories that we have the most faith in, ones we have the most stake in, and how those stories help shape society. But that examination has to sit right alongside an honest look at the current human condition, which is slavery. Government is slavery, good people. And the question that we have to keep returning to, at least on this channel, is what can actually be improved with a proper understanding of the inner storyteller and how it works. Now, last time that we met with the one and only Sarah Cross, we started the discussion on why people distrust the medical authorities. And today I plan to continue said conversation. Sarah, how are you doing out there in the wide, wide world?
Good. Thanks for having me back.
Yes, absolute and toot and lootly. Can you remind the people, since I have a super small channel right now, a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why?
My name is Sarah Cross, and I do, I guess, a little bit of podcasting myself. I have a show where I talk about mainly history, which enters into the metaphysics and spiritual kind of background history that's associated with that. I also have just a link tree where people can find all the mischief I get into. And they can follow me on Instagram where they just see all the different little things that they can learn about. A lot of it is history clips or, something interesting that I come across or just something fun that I did. So
Indeed.
just a little bit more personal. And then I write the History Project Digest magazine, which I produce myself and put out into the world into physical books.
Yes, yes, yes. Where can people get the magazine if they wanted to get it right now?
Well, if you go to the link tree, you can either go to Amazon and get it directly from them. In Amazon, you can get the individual copies of the books, which all have different covers. So if you're into that, or for last year, for an example, the first 3 books for last year, that's 2025, you can get in like one compendium if you're more of a minimalist. If you're interested in history and weird kind of information like that, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
um, and I'm in the process of writing the next issue and take it from there. But you can
Wonderful.
go to the Amazon if you really wanted to, and you don't mind a little bit of a wait. You can go to the Etsy page; that's on the list as well. But
Nice. So go to Amazon or the Etsy page, get you a copy of the physical. We got to make more physical things so people can own things. When independent people make stuff and they either sell it or accept donations for it if they're on the private side of the
Hmm.
accounting world, then they actually, whoever purchased it actually owns it. Nowadays
Right.
everything is subscription, and like we can take it away from you if you violate community guidelines or something.
Yeah.
Got to get back to the physical ownership of stuff as
Well,
soon
at
as we
least
get
stuff
this
like
trash and
that.
recycle underway.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. I mean, it's because it's a resource. Like stuff like books are more like a resource. I
Hmm.
would consider it more of a
Even games,
resource.
though, you're a gamer, right?
Yeah.
Even games, that whole debacle with
Uh,
consoles
yeah.
versus, yeah,
Yeah, and like people are like, if I'm gonna spend $80 on a game, I better get the
get the whole
disc.
game. Yeah,
Like, just like none of this like digital stuff. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's just
yeah,
that. And I'm
and
like,
then another
oh,
$5 a month. Like, what are you talking about?
I know, just have whatever special features, and I'm like, so like, yeah, gamers are definitely like, I don't know,
Yeah.
not into that. Like, so but
So
definitely books, physical books, I consider to be pretty important. And like, it like people will say, "Oh, print is dead," just get everything digital. And I'm like, that's all well and good, but print is not dead. They're going to be, they've been here forever, and they're going to be here forever into the future. And no matter what people do, a book is always in the physical forever, unless you like destroy it somehow. But
right,
like, we're still reading books from like thousands of years ago, so I don't even
thousands.
know what the argument is there
Yeah,
with people.
absolutely, absolutely. Plus, when everything is digital, the kids are not learning how to read. There's a whole lot of psychological affects and effects in that arena that we won't get into in today's episode. Speaking of, last time you were here, last Wednesday, um, the question that we, you know, kind of did a real deep dive on had to do with how are some of us in the social media space, in the influencer space, and even in the freedom community space at large in general, how are we kind of exaggerating some of the negative side of the medical industry, and like how to meet that with a more practical mind, as well as what are some things that we're legitimately concerned about that need to stop coming from the so-called medical authorities. But today, good people, we have another kind of look at this question, not another look at that question, but another question that furthers the conversation, which has to do with, it's kind of a two-parter, twofer, if you will. One, on one side, there is a schism in a lot of us where we feel both um, anger and resentment and some hatred for the people that make up the medical authorities, so-called authorities, feeling guilty for despising the treatment or a system that may have actually helped you or saved your life. And then also within that bubble of feeling like you don't want to give any compliments, any praise, any endorsement to the medical industry at large, but also you do want to publicly acknowledge the blessing maybe that you got in your life, or that your child got, or whatever. Within that bubble, can you also talk about what that experience is like from the inside, and how what you're calling complex PTSD, which I know you're going to define for us today, specifically shapes the way a person processes that kind of contradiction? For the first couple minutes, I do want to leave this little image up for people to listen to you and digest this image at the same time, and then I'll make our heads bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had my own experiences. I'm in my 40s now, so I've spent the majority of my life dealing with the healthcare system with my condition. And I've definitely had bad experiences and good experiences on both counts. And so I always have to like argue the point, like when people who will throw the baby out with the bathwater, because that's the majority of the arguments that I get, and they want to throw it all out. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. We've got to like actually discern this, because I will agree there are some definitely bad things that happen in the medical system, but there's also good stuff that comes out of it too, and we need to understand how to discern these things. So I've had really, really low points, and I've had really, really high points, like things that were hurting me because of the system, and then things that were actually helping me and things that saved my life personally. And I know so many people with the exact same story.
Right.
Like, I've heard so many stories about it, and people don't know how to deal with the contradiction of it. It can be difficult for them. So they either usually go one way or the other, because they can't process both of them at the same time. Oftentimes it's like really hard. And then I'm going to touch a little bit about how patients will often, they won't even really address it or say anything to their doctors, because there's this like fear-based implication that they're going to get targeted in a way where they won't get treatment, or their doctors will write them off, or try to prescribe some kind of mood stabilizer or whatever on them. And people are trying to avoid that stuff, so that can be very complicated. It's really complicated for people emotionally. They don't know how to like handle it. So I wanted to start with some definitions, just so people have like a good grasp on like what it is like when you go in to like talk to a doctor, or you're talking to medical personnel, so that people understand what the real definitions actually are and how they are defining them. And then that way you have a little bit more of a wherewithal. Like, you're not going in not really knowing just anything, or coming out like some kind of mess, like you don't know what you're talking about. Like, like I said in the last week, like, just go prepared, like understand the information, and don't go in like even though it can be very difficult and emotionally straining, don't go in like you're an emotional mess, because that's the fastest way to get dismissed, or to be pigeonholed into a diagnosis that you don't have. So to start with, just like with PTSD as a definition, most people are pretty familiar with PTSD. Usually people associate them with veterans, but post-traumatic stress disorder, this was first recognized in the DSM-3, which is short for what is it here? I got it. It's short for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. That's the DSM. So it was recognized in the DSM-3 in 1980 by the American Psychiatric Association. And it is considered a psychiatric condition that may develop after a person experiences or witnesses a traumatic event. So PTSD is diagnosed like, oh, you had this big major one event take place in your life, and so that's PTSD. And it's like that person, and it's a real thing, like that person is experiencing that, like something in the environment will trigger it, and that person is experiencing that. And like, we can get even like weird about that, like, if you understand a little bit about metaphysics, or like how the mind can make it real, that's how you get like people who experience really physical side effects. Like they're really in physical pain. They're like feeling it, because they're experiencing the memory, and the mind makes it real. That's PTSD.
If I can add a little bit to that, the body re-rehearses the experience.
Yeah.
So, in short, from my own mind, just to parallel what you already went over, after the initial stressor that caused this huge hormone release and confusion and all of these things, all of the things. Um, if you're triggered, and not just the social media sense of the word, but if you're triggered as in your trauma is now reawakened and reactivated within your body sort of goes through the first, second, third of you know processing that trauma almost as if it happened again, instead of you just thinking about it and moving forward with your life.
Yeah. And it really does. Like, I've experienced these effects myself. And so it is definitely a real thing, and it doesn't get treated exactly the way that it really should. So, but before this, like, what's even weirder about it is, like, before it was called PTSD or recognized as that, it was called gross stress reaction. And that was coined in 1952 in the DSM-1, the first one that came out. That it limited symptoms to only 6 months. So before they really got into it in 1980, PTSD, it was this gross stress reaction, and they actually limited it to 6 months. It only took place for 6 months. That was the cap that the medical industry put on this. But it was
Totally not
formally,
arbitrary. Totally big science, big brain.
yeah. So, like, I'm sure there was a reason why that happened, but that's what happened. It wasn't adopted as a long-term problem until, of course, the long-term effects that took place that they noticed and studied in veterans from Vietnam War. So in
Hmm.
2013, the DSM-5 reclassified it as a condition that says trauma and stressor related disorder, meaning that this is a, like, complex variety of things. And before that, during that time, they still only really attributed it to people who were like veterans of some kind. It didn't expand necessarily into the average person who was having like one particular major trauma event in their life. These were not necessarily people who were being diagnosed or treated for like trauma, because PTSD, like for one major event, that could be so many things. It
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily have to be in the case of war. But so
And
that,
between the DSM-1 and the DSM-5, that's 60 years. That's 1952 to 2013.
yeah.
Just for context, as far
And
as
and where that does seem like a long time for people to like get or like really look at this stuff, like relatively speaking in the medical world, like the medical institution, like of like evolving, that's
mhm.
like not that long of a time, like
Right.
in
It's
regards
not.
to history. So, but it does seem like, why did it take 60 years to just like recognize this? Now they understand PTSD is like anybody can have it. You'd have one severe traumatic event in your life, and you could be suffering from PTSD as a result of it, and they recognize that now. And
Yeah.
I think like there are doctors who will try to like push some kind of drug on you, and patients will ask for it. They'll ask for stuff because they don't want to deal with the problem. They'd rather cover it up. We can go into that a little bit in a minute. To continue on, the definition for complex PTSD, which is a little bit more complicated, and it's starting to become more of a thing now that people are talking about and recognizing. It's been around for a little while, but that doesn't mean people were actually, or even doctors were even recognizing it or understanding that it's there. Doctors
Hmm.
are not infallible. Like they don't know everything as much as people like to assume that they should.
Oh,
They
they're quite
don't.
fallible,
Yeah. And
as we
there's a
all are. Go
yeah,
ahead.
there's a reason why it's called practicing medicine. So and people forget that. Like it means that like you don't just stop learning in the field just because you exited medical school. You are supposed to continue educating yourself. Like it's a field that's meant to operate like that.
Yeah. And
So
young doctors will tell you you start learning after school, even though school might be 12 years after regular college. It might be
yeah,
12 years of graduate, or excuse me, 12 years total college, but or at
yeah,
least 8,
yep, and that's
and
true.
then you start learning.
Yep,
So, yeah, go ahead.
absolutely. There's a big difference between theoretical education and practical application, like practically
In the field, yeah.
applying the information like that you learn in the real world. So yeah, like you've got to like actually experience it to really learn stuff. Like you can absorb stuff
Hmm.
from a book, but to actually apply it correctly is another matter. So the definition that we have for post traumatic stress disorder, or a complex post traumatic stress disorder, otherwise known as CPTSD, it was first recognized in 1988 by psychiatrist Judith Herman. It's a mental health condition resulting from prolonged or repetitive exposure to traumatic events. That means it's not just one event where it's the same events that haunts you. They are multiple events, all of them being different and separate from each other. Um, Let me scroll down here. So, particularly those involving interpersonal harm or captivity, where escape seems impossible. So they're kind of talking about here, like
Slaves.
women, well, or women who are like beaten by their husbands, or
Hmm.
children who have like abusive homes, or like
Hmm.
anybody who's under some kind of stress in that way, like it, or like people like me who have like long-term chronic health conditions, like,
Yeah.
so, and people forget about that. They're like, oh, but like they just assume like, oh, you're being helped, like you look so good for, and it's like you don't understand like the situations that take place, like sometimes the treatment that you receive that actually helps you has quite a lot of backlash to it, where it's not like comfortable. It can be painful. It can be like it's just like a whole thing. So it's like
Yeah.
it's like with people who like are slaves, and even people who are slaves today, but
Hmm.
it's anybody who is in, like it could be anybody, like you could
Yeah,
be.
and just for clarity, on this channel, our definition of slavery is not regulated to chattel slavery.
Yeah, slavery
Just
is
yeah.
there's all different kinds of slavery, and slavery is still taking place today, even chattel slavery in other
Yeah.
countries. So it's like there's so many like if you're in a stressful situation, which is which can be like borderline or actually violent, or like like I said, chronic patients, children with abusive homes, men or women who are with abusive spouses, anything like that. Like, so like that's can be classified under CPTSD if
Hmm.
you develop symptoms like so um, the condition was not fully recognized though until it was classified in the ICD-11, which is actually called the International Classification of Diseases, and that's more European. That's
Hmm.
so
Well,
we're like
international,
it's
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like more like the WHO would be, or like the
Hmm.
Europeans usually go to that before they go to the DSM, where we over here usually go to the DSM before we go to the IDC. So, but both of them are relevant. Unlike the standard PTSD, which often stems from a single incident that takes place multiple times, CPTSD is characterized by additional symptoms, including severe emotional dysregulation, a negative self-concept, feelings of shame, guilt, and worthlessness. So this definitely, it stacks in there like sort of under the radar, and you don't, it's not something you like really fully recognize. And significant interpersonal difficulties. So all this stuff like kind of builds up together, and then when you and like how PTSD, people who have that experience the physical sensations of the memory over and over again. CPTSD people have that as well.
Like, complex PTSD people have that as well.
It's the same thing. So you get the same. It's not like just a psychological problem. The mind makes it real. You feel it because you remember exactly every single detail about how it felt. And that's why your body's reading what your mind is telling you, what your brain is processing. And that's why that happens. So the condition.
And if I can also, and I would, not to edit your words, but I would say what your full body is processing, not just your brain, because your nervous system is all throughout the whole thing. You have like, depending on who you ask, you have like 5 brains, right? So yeah.
Like I say, like the mind makes it real, but like you have to put it into that your brain, your heart, your entire nervous system. Like your body reads the language. So it's only emulating what I mean, and you know, you could go into stuff like, you know, Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and he you know, it's just
I'm familiar, by the way, with Joe Dispenza's work, and I used to really want to go to one of his things and put on the funny hats, if you will, with the 1,000 nodes and meditate with them, but obviously they're very expensive and travel. So I never got to go to one, but I wanted to see if what he was talking about as far as an experience that he was able to give 80-year-olds and whatnot with this gamma wave in their brains, if that was actually happening during his sessions or not. Because I just don't trust people on the internet, right? Like, sorry, you know, no disrespect or shade to Mr. Dispenza here, but I gotta go see it for myself.
I agree.
But I'm very familiar. I've seen, you know, his documentary work, as well as his, like, he did like 50 interviews in like 2 years, 3 years or so. He did like 50 interviews, and by 50 I'm exaggerating. He did like 7 or 8 that went viral. And I've seen them all. I've read some of his material. I think my wife finished 2 books of his. So we're very familiar with Mr. Dispenza and you know, his biking tragedy turned self-healing triumph is pretty cool. I don't believe it yet, but I do think that it's somewhat possible.
That's a good point to bring up. Like I have to tell this to people all the time because they're like, "Oh, Sarah, did you see this?" And I'm like, "Look, you know, that's nice and everything, but don't just necessarily believe what people are telling you, like, because it can be subjective, or it could just be like grifting
and incomplete
information, like especially with stuff on social media. I know people who will like, you know, oh, but I learned the news. They think it's like the truth, the full truth, and I'm like, but you got it off Facebook, so you know. I don't know how much you know credit you can actually really give it, you know. So
by the way, this commenter is Jerry,
hey,
Jerry, you know what I'm saying, extraordinaire. Shout out Jerry, shout out Theo.
Hey Theo.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah, so it's and Dispenza is definitely an interesting topic for me. I'm like reading one of his books again.
Oh yeah.
So
which one?
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Oh, Being Yourself. Yeah, nice. Okay.
So I have that actually here.
Look at that! Look at that! And the pen is keeping the page. She's not lying, good people. She's
So like,
actually reading material.
I don't know if the camera can catch
I'm
that.
scared to ask you if you started my book yet. I know I sent it to you a little bit ago.
So like, I write. I don't know if you can, that's what
We see the
my books.
highlights.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
what my books end up. And your book will end up looking like that too. So
nice.
just so you know, most of my books end up looking like that. They're like, "What are you writing in the books?" And I'm like, "Because I need to." Um, so yeah, it's
It's
definitely
called
interesting.
active reading, class. It's called active reading.
Yeah, don't read your books, study them. Make it a habit.
Yeah.
Break the habit.
No TikTok brain with books, people.
No TikTok brain. That's right. So, moving on with a definition, we know the ICD is the International Classification of Diseases. The DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. Notice how the ICD just calls it a disease, and the DSM calls it a mental disorder. So you've got to know these differences. It'll matter. So the treatment typically requires specialized trauma-informed psychotherapy to help process fragmented memories. Because often with complex PTSD, what you have to end up doing is you have little tiny pieces of memory, and they're all kind of incomplete, and they all give you all the same reactions or all different reactions depending on whatever the memory is, and you don't really fully understand it because you don't have the full complete memory. So like the psychotherapy is meant to actually help you to, you know, pull out the full memory, which you could probably do with, you know, hypnotherapy, or you know, there's all kinds of different ways, or you just like work on it independently yourself, and you'll be surprised how much actually crops up.
Yeah.
What was interesting is that PTSD is treated with therapy and SSRIs, while CPTSD typically is only treated with specialized therapy to alleviate the symptoms of the single event. Or I wrote that a little bit weird. So yeah, so so CPTSD, they'll give you specialized therapy, but PTSD, they like to give you drugs for. CPTSD is seen as something that has a direct relationship. It's a side effect from the environment that we are living in normally in our everyday lives. So it could be, like I said, it's just, that's why they're calling it complex, because they don't want to, you know, they don't want to make it a thing, like a just one little thing, like, because people will report all kinds of stuff that, you know, makes them crazy. And, you know, it's like, there's no real other way. There's nothing else to like classify this stuff as, because even a lot of like medical professionals won't recognize CPTSD. They barely want to recognize PTSD.
Let alone patients.
Yeah, the patients themselves even don't want to recognize it. They don't want to acknowledge it. That's a fear-based response. They're afraid of.
Well,
what
and how many people are reading the DSM or the IDC?
Not many.
You know,
or
ICD,
know that it's a thing.
Yeah.
So now, like, moving on, you know, those are the definitions. Like, that's the information that people should understand. And it can be either very easy to be diagnosed into a condition like that when you don't have it, or misdiagnosed, or, I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong or go right, like, depending on the situation. So you have to like really know your information. You don't.
I'm not gonna lie. I have some thoughts that are coming up that are just coming up now, as we're talking about this. That, like, you know, when throughout history, certain groups of people have understood psychology and like the nervous system very, very, very at a high level in comparison to the general public, right? Just in the same way that people that were in charge of the monetary systems have always had a much greater understanding of said monetary systems than the general public, even today, right? How many people really understand the monetary system today, even though we all can read and we're all supposedly quote unquote literate? And I'm like, some of the people in that same class, right, who had the control and the influence and the power and the reach and the networks and whatnot, implemented agendas to traumatize the public. And I'm like, I wonder if financial troubles, big ones though, not just a general like weight on your shoulders trying to provide for yourself and your family, but like big back to back unfair financial trauma can affect a nervous system of certain personality types the same way that, not this, I don't want to say the same way because I don't want to minimize certain physical traumas, but I just want to say like in a similar way that other repeated unfair, you know, let's say harm caused, or even accidents affect the brain and the nervous system and make you kind of replay it, dream about it, and just your body keeps rehearsing this thing over and over again, and you need help, external help to heal. If finances and financial troubles can do the same thing, and if so, if this modern squeezing of all of the financial things is a part of, you know, that they basically want a general population with CPTSD, pardon me, um, and are using the financial squeezing to manifest that reality. Those are some thoughts that are coming to mind.
I mean, collectively speaking, yeah, you could maybe classify it like that. On an individual level, there is really like I won't say lower class, but it's like a not as an extreme class of an effect that happens just having stress generally. So we are conditioned in our society to be stressed out about everything. And it's even in our like regular sayings like, oh, I'm stressed out for moving. I'm stressed out for divorcing. I'm stressed out with money. I'm stressed out with having a baby. I'm stressed
Yep.
out with buying a house. I'm stressed out with like 1,000 different things, right? And it's
Yep.
so commonplace that it's become normal for people to talk like that normally. So this I consider to be general social engineering kind of conditioning that we can all just stop doing that kind of, we don't have to talk like that. We don't
We don't
have
have
to
to normalize it.
consider, and yeah, we don't have to normalize it. We don't have to make those things because we're saying it, oh, I'm so stressed out because of this. And your mind is getting, I'm so stressed out. And when
Right.
you stress yourself out, like, so this is like a different thing that takes place is that when you stress yourself out over like the regular things like money or moving or baby or wedding or whatever it is, right? You can physically make yourself sick. People like, oh, I got a cold, I
Hmm.
got this, you know, and it's something like kind of, you know, minimal, like, you know, something you can really get over. But like the reason why you got a cold so bad, like, oh, I'm so confused why I got this like gnarly cold. It's because you're putting so much stress and thought. You're putting so much attention into how stressed out you are about whatever the thing is that your body is eventually going to shut you down. And your
Yeah.
body will do this. Your body will shut you down.
Yeah.
And people don't look at it like that. They don't even think that they are connected to each other, but they are directly connected to each other. So this is, it's a different thing that happens. Like people say to me, oh, I'm stressed out about, like, for example, I get a lot of, oh, I'm so stressed out because I'm moving. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I kind of don't get that when I move, if I have to move, because I moved around my entire life, all the
Hmm.
time. We moved
So it's
around
just
state to
Wednesday.
state.
Yeah.
So it's just Wednesday. Yeah, exactly. So moving is not a stressful event for me. I don't consider it stressful. I don't look at it stressful.
Hmm.
And I have developed this habit because I was consciously putting focus into this, that I am not going to look at these everyday regular adulting, have to deal with adult tasks with this or that as
Yeah.
stressful. I'm just not going to do it. And I've consciously made an effort and practiced that. And I would suggest everybody else do the same thing. And if they did this, I'd be willing. I mean, I'd almost guarantee that like a lot of their problems might even go away. A lot, they
A
won't.
lot of yeah, a lot of their kind of self-imposed suffering may at least be diluted.
Yes.
And this is a really relevant comment here by Theo. I have had total distrust of the medical system since forever, but especially since COVID, he says. And he continues, I went to a local clinic here in I guess Thailand,
Mhm.
countryside, for a small issue to get a feel, and it's the same government shit.
That's because it's institutionalized.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
institutionalized medicine, like it really, it actually more so depends on the people who are running whatever facility. And I have been in places where you're just like, dude, I wouldn't walk into this building again if I was like, missing a limb. And then there are places I've walked into and be like, okay, I can actually discern that the people here, or they're, even if they are not necessarily like, spiritually enlightened or whatever,
Hmm.
you would really
Hmm.
want them to be, they at least are on point and they are doing their job that the way that they're supposed to. And like those are the discernments you have to make. And that's why I say go person to person. Like, generally, and really it's healthy to have distrust towards any institution. Like you shouldn't just put all your trust into an institution or even I'd say you shouldn't put your trust into just anybody, including
Yeah.
people who say that they're freedom orientated or even health, natural health homeopaths or
Right.
any of those, because you have to discern the person and actually like evaluate the individual themselves and not just say, oh, all natural health is good and all institutionalized medicine is bad, because that isn't the full truth of it. And
And
it's it
so go ahead.
it's entirely acceptable, and I would say even healthy, to have a distrust for the medical system.
And I want to add to that we also, and to the main point of you can't just trust people on at face value for what they say, even if they're in the crowd that's your flavor. We also can't live life separated from spirituality and karma. There may be instances where the thing that's supposed to work for you, physically speaking, is not going to work for you because karma. I'm sorry to say that, but if we're going to be open and honest about the fact that the unseen is not separate from the seen, and that there is a karmic or cosmic response to the moral weight of our choices, and the vast majority of us are just blindly obedient to absolutely everything that very, very, very evil people tell us to say and do, then there may be sometimes that the thing doesn't work because that's the response that you're getting that's supposed to teach you a lesson. I'm sorry to say it. I know egos and super skeptical, only logical people are not hearing any of that. That just went in one ear and out the other, and they're just going to click off the video. But we can't just separate spirit. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
that's just something we have to keep in mind
Yeah.
as we traverse these conversations.
And it's funny that you say that too, because I'm also reading Many Mansions by
Hmm.
Gina Sermonera, which is the story of Edgar Casey. And she talks about a little bit about that, where it's like, and I really like how she like defines karma. It's not necessarily something about retribution. It's about you're kind of doing it to yourself in a way, because you're like, okay, in this lifetime, I did this and I had to learn this lesson. And so now in this lifetime, I have to go to the other side of that coin and learn that lesson of like in the reverse. And like,
Yeah.
I just thought, I'm like, of course it is. Of course it is. So it's not about like retribution or revenge or because you're a bad person. It's because your high self, is going, we have lessons to learn and you're going to learn them all. So yeah, that's definitely a good point to make, is that this is why I also say do not blame every single thing on an external
Yeah.
source. Sometimes these things they're there for a reason, for you to learn that lesson. You've got to like understand that. And that's the difference between like reading something out of a book and practically applying it. You can't just read about it, you got to experience it. And so yeah, that's just like that's a good point to make.
Yeah.
um
It's a scary point because it's like, oh, but I want to know. I want everything to be in the realm of the seen, and it's like,
they want
no,
it
we
to
got a
be
whole
easy.
unseen.
They
Yeah.
want it to be easy, and they want to not have to take personal responsibility
Yeah.
for the problems in their life. So everyone else is the villain, and they never consider how, if they changed themselves and how they perceive things and how they go about like understanding stuff, that they can't see, or they won't see that changes how their world, how their life
Yeah.
actually continues on,
Yeah.
and or how they experience the world out there. Like, things change dramatically when you change your perspective from, oh, I'm a victim, to, oh, I'm in this like world with everybody else, and probably everybody else has got just as many, if not more or less, than problems than I do. So their behavior is really based off of that. It has
Yeah.
nothing really to do with me.
It's a really
And
strong point, and I think it feeds directly into some of your notes that you have regarding cognitive dissonance,
yes,
because that's
so
kind of the phenomenon that you're describing right now. Um,
yeah, and
and I just, yeah,
it's
go ahead.
about literacy. So our definition for cognitive dissonance, because that comes into play here. That's your double standard, right? Of feeling grateful and feeling resentful over it, and not knowing how to like have them both. And so you feel both, so you're dysregulated from
Oh,
it.
I'm a married man. I
Um,
know exactly what you're talking about. I'm kidding.
so this is considered, the definition is the mental discomfort or psychological stress experienced by an individual who holds two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values simultaneously, or whose behavior conflicts with their beliefs. So like, we see this all over social media now. I see it mostly a lot with the youth, unfortunately, and a lot of the left, where they believe one thing, but then they act like erratically violent and physically like attack people, over words too, over, which is insane. Like, words have been conditioned into some people that words are violence, and
Yep.
that's also false. So this theory proposed by psychologist Leon Festinger, who was an American social psychologist in 1957. He suggests that humans have an inner drive to hold all their attitudes and beliefs in harmony and avoid disharmony, which is the dissidence part of it. So it's
Hmm.
like you have all these contradicting concepts in your head, but because we want them to be in harmony, we meld them together in this like distorted way. I won't say we, just some people who are dealing with this, who suffer from
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um, and really, I think that comes down to a root of illiteracy.
Mm.
When people are illiterate comprehensively, they're going to have more issues with understanding how their non-physical body and their physical body are working together as a system. They're not going to know how to identify it or how to think about it. They won't even think about it at all. And they won't know how to describe it or explain it. So when they explain it to other people to try to get help, it comes out like this big emotional train wreck. You're just like a hot mess, right? And that all comes down to literacy. And I wanted to read real quick a reference from William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse.
Rest in peace, rest in power, Bill Cooper.
Yeah, because this to me explains a lot of the big issues as to why people are so confused and they don't know how to like explain anything or explain themselves or really define who they are as like individuals or people. It starts with literacy. And so I have the book here, another book that has
people used to hide this book when when people came over their house. People used to put this in their nightstand drawer.
Yeah, it's another book where I've got lots of little post-its and stuff in. And just this one little paragraph here, which is in the first documents that he has in the book, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And apparently this was a document given to soldiers to read and to understand. And this paragraph reads, this was in the 1970s. The quality of education given to the lower class, that's us, must be the poorest sort, so that the mote of ignorance isolating the inferior class, that's us, from the superior class, that's them, is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. So that means that the education has to be down to nothing. No foundation. All foundation has now been stripped away from all education, unless you are in a really good private school or you have a very unique teacher in the public school, or you have parents who are homeschooling who actually know about this kind of stuff and are actively teaching foundational tools to their 5-year-olds. Like, otherwise, you probably aren't going to get it. With such a initial handicap, and they even recognize it as a handicap, when we are comprehensively illiterate, we are handicapped. It is a disability. Even bright lower class individuals, even the ones that excel, have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. Meaning, doesn't matter how like bright they are, whoever they are, there's probably going to be a cap placed on them by whatever society does, or however they choose to like develop, like what that like it really does come down to the individual. So like the individual too has to like make good decisions. Like, I don't want to make it sound like, oh, it's all them doing it. Like, the individual has to like also participate actively in these things. So it's like, yeah, you can allow society to cap you like that, or you can be like, no, I'm not going to be stopped. And so just to finish, this form of slavery, because being illiterate, being comprehensively illiterate is a type of slavery, is essential to maintaining some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. That's in an official government document.
Apparently.
Allegedly, yeah.
We on YouTube, but yeah, I've read Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars years ago.
It's a great book.
Oh my goodness. Behold the Pale Horse, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the document, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars itself, because I read Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars way before I read some of William Cooper's full book. But the extent to which the education system, as well as trade education that you may get after school. You know, you may go mechanic, some trade, right? Learn how to do something with your hands, build a thing. All of that is designed so that the way that you get the information, it's not designed so that the information itself is just completely false. It's never designed that way. You cannot construct an effective lie with no truth in it. So the information on its face, it's kind of like math class. You know how math class used to kind of guide our thoughts before we got these just like straight up just memorize the answer type of things. Um, it used to kind of guide our. I just recently saw this video on Instagram showing the two different ways to do division, long division, where you have, 4. How many times does 4 go into 3,262? And and they showed, the way that I do it, which is you write the 4 and then you do that symbol, and then you write the bigger number after the symbol, and you see how many times 4 goes into each digit, do the subtraction, carry the whatever, blah blah blah, and how much faster it is to do the new method where they're just memorizing certain procedures that may get them to the answer quicker. In my mind, that read as, yeah, well, the first one is kind of guiding us to think about division as the number going into, right? Whereas the second one, the more modern one, is just, if you hear this, you should memorize to think about this first. It's not the same kind of guidance, I guess I'm trying to say. And all of that to say the design, the way that we are trained to do schooling as students, not as teachers, as students, is 100% for creating workers and soldiers, silent obedient laborers, and silent obedient soldiers. And that is not only the observable fruits of the design, but it's also the documented and admitted fruits, admitted design by the Rockefellers and the J.P. Morgans and the people that created this thing. They said that. They said that that's what they were aiming for. So
yeah, and
yeah.
that's what illiteracy does. That's like when you don't understand things comprehensively. Like, literacy is not just about reading and writing, it's your input and your output. That's what literacy is. It's a spectrum of comprehension. It's your understanding. And it's not just about reading and writing. So, like, often, just so we, clear that up. Because a lot of people like, oh, it's about reading and writing. It's not. It's a spectrum. And it's what you take in and what you put out. And, really, none of these major problems would really happen if people were literate. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying everybody is illiterate, but a vast majority of people are literate in several different things.
Yes.
In several different ways. Like, I get, like, in 2005, the National Report Card statistics was saying, and this is for public education, right, where they even said like 75% of adults are comprehensively illiterate. 75%. They cannot think or comprehend or read or write beyond a 6th grade level. And that's their numbers. That's what they're admitting that. And so we have to like understand that. So like when I started looking at that, I'm like, okay, how am I going to be able to help people be more literate with information and understand this information? And the only way to do that is to give them practical information that they could generally like just keep in their wheelhouse, to understand things. They want us to not understand the language. And so when we understand the language, we're going to have a better shot at things. Like, generally speaking, you're going to have, like, this is a tool to utilize. So that's why I encourage it. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
on that note, let me I'm gonna share something real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. Uh, Sarah, we coming back. We coming back. This is a new series. Okay, you are roped in. The handcuffs are on, and you are locked in here, cause we got to do this again and again and again. And it's not just because we're not getting through the notes. Okay, it's because this is awesome, and this is stuff that's very important for us to all be exposed to. But let me share my screen real quick on that note of public illiteracy. Now, this is an example of illiteracy in the traditional sense of the word, meaning we can't read correctly. But it's kind of funny, and it will also make the point that you were making.
yeah. And
Um,
I've seen this guy,
you
and I'm
probably,
just like,
yeah, you probably
I'm just
seen this.
most of them just like this, like that's just like part of me wants to like feel bad for them, and then part of me is just like embarrassed over it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. Well,
stop.
don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Let's
Um,
react to it real quick, and then we'll
yeah.
close out the episode.
Read the index card. The architectural. Read the index card.
There are reconciliations. I can't say that word too good, but it's reconciliations. Required
By the way, just want to say for the record, he does this experiment with all races of people. I think this video is probably all black people. I can't remember. I've seen it a long time ago. But he does this with everybody. Nobody can read. Okay, it's not
Yeah.
just us.
He's
Nobody
got
can fucking
several
read.
of them with like white people and Asian people and like
Asian
mixed people,
Asian people, the people you
girls,
thought were
guys.
getting all A's. Check it out.
extraordinary. You ain't gotta say it, I know it.
Preservation project required calories, planning and substitutional fundamental.
Vulnerable. I can't say it, but vulnerability. Vulnerable. And emotional accountability. I just can't say the words, but I know the
You
words.
know the words though. Y'all can tell you know them. Read the index card.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell you know him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they agreed to do it. Like, I don't, and what's like even worse is most of them are not feeling they don't feel embarrassed. They don't feel ashamed of this. Like, they're just
No.
like, a lot of them, they don't even,
Why do I
it's like,
have
it's
to learn
not,
how to read if AI and if the calculator and the AI can do it for me? Why do I need to learn how to read or do math? And that's not legitimate. That's completely illegitimate. But that's how we feel. Back to
yeah.
the camera.
Well, well, see, phonics was taken out of education. So we used to have something called the McGuffey readers, and the McGuffey readers were given to 5-year-olds starting out 5 to 6th grade. And at 5 years old, the McGuffey readers were very important. Like, they should definitely be brought back, but they think they started taking them out. They became less and less popular. And by the 80s, probably, they were completely gone out of schools, as if I'm remembering that. But at 5 years old, when these kids were given something like the McGuffey readers, by the end of that reader, that 5-year-old was starting to learn cursive.
Yep.
And so just imagine what that means. That means by 6th grade, pretty much anything you throw at a kid, like information wise, on like how to do something, that kid's going to be able to tackle it.
At least digest the information.
Yeah, and like they're going to have a good, because it's building comprehension, it's building literacy, it's phonics. So it's so important, and like it should definitely be brought back. And AI and calculators are not always accurate. I mean, I guess a calculator is as accurate as you are. like
Right.
depending on
Right.
how you're using the calculator. AI, depending on the AI, is not necessarily going to be accurate
Oh,
on
AI is a lot worse
things.
than a calculator. A
And
calculator at least is easier to understand. An AI hallucination or a slight misread of what your prompt was supposed to say, but giving you something that, well, if you're overusing it, you're probably not even analyzing to that extent where you're like, no, you got it kind of wrong. You're probably not even reading what the response is, and you're just using it.
yeah,
You know?
there's a lot of public school educators even. They're going online and they're saying, I just quit. Or they're complaining that their students can't even remember like a simple task that they were told 5 seconds ago. They
Are
don't
you
read the
familiar with the Homestead
assignments.
Journeys YouTube channel?
Maybe.
There's some lady that makes compilation videos of people in various occupations like teachers, mechanics, bankers. She has a lot of videos with teachers. And it's like different teachers. She'll have a video of 30 teachers, and then the next week she'll release another video. It'd be 30 more teachers that weren't
Yeah.
in the last video. And yeah, and she breaks stuff down like that. We've reacted to her channel a couple times on this channel.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And they're just like, I can't educate. I can't give them anything
yeah,
because
Chromebooks are the devil, they say. Yeah.
they don't read the assignments. They put the prompt in AI and then the assignment is even wrong because they didn't even read the response that AI gave them. They just turned it in, and like this is like a becoming a habit. So imagine, soul, that we have an entire generation now that it will like that is mostly, I'm not going to say every single one of them because that's not true, but mostly these kids they're like this. They
Yeah.
are comprehensively illiterate dynamically. And imagine when they get older and they start to like recognize like health issues, or if there's somebody who was born with a chronic health issue, how is it you think they're really going to be able to understand that? How to deal with that? How to function with that? How to handle that? How to communicate that?
How to
They
research that, how
how
to discern. Yep.
how to discern anything. It's just a blank slate. They if they can't even understand these basic things that are practical day to day, what should be automatic for everybody, like regular stuff, how are they going to be able to develop as an adult into the future? How are they going to be able to recognize the more complicated stuff when it comes up?
And
They
if they're
won't.
not, is the story going to end with the quasi justification of the ruling class saying, well, the ruled class is too dumb, so we have to rule them. Look at them. And then we show videos like the one we just reacted to. But
And
before you respond, Sarah, it is an hour and 8 minutes. I do want to, you know, I don't know, look out for the TikTok brain audience that we all have on this YouTube app as I try to grow my little channel. And of course, have to have you back um for part 3, part 4, part 10. We could do a whole series. Doesn't matter to me. Love having you here. And please remind the people uh to go to your link tree and why real quick.
yeah, and definitely I could talk about this stuff all day.
All day.
All day. I got all kinds of stuff here. But yeah, like if you're so inclined, come and hang out with me. You can find me on the Linktree. That's /Sarah_cross. And the link is there. And you can check out my books or any of the shows that I've put up it's on YouTube or Spotify. It's also on the One Great Work Network. And you can, really, if you wanted to support the efforts of a independent researcher, writer, you can maybe buy a couple of books. And, even that, a couple of bucks goes a long way in supporting it. And if you're just wanting to hang out with me and, chat and some live chats and, do some gaming, you can find me at the Twitch channel.
Boom. All right. Thank you so very much for coming back to the show. Theo, you've been rocking out with us for over an hour. Really appreciate you. Thank you for all your comments. I love the last comment, too. I didn't get to read it out loud. They want us infantile slaves, and unfortunately, humanity is not waking up to that. Very, very true. Perhaps we'll get more into the factoids regarding that story next time Sara is around. I definitely talk about that every single day on this channel in my solo videos. We will catch y'all tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Yeah, Thursday. To either tomorrow or Friday. I do have a place to be after work tomorrow. We will see. But I love y'all. Peace.